Hello, my name is Mary Lynn Silverstein, and I work in the CNS Career Center. Today, I'm here to talk to you about resumes, cover letters, personal statements, and just overall how to present job applications, graduate school applications that stand out. So, as we jump into things today, we are going to do a brief review of what the Career Center offers. So, the CNS Career Center is located in Morrill 2 on the third floor in room 321. We offer drop-in advising with our peer advisors, which is available Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition, we have one-on-one career advising available, and you schedule that through your Handshake account on the Career Center tab. In addition to Handshake, we have a UMass CNS Career Center page, and on there you'll find information including a database of where previous students have shared that they've done internships in research. You'll see pre-recorded workshops that we have available, information on resume examples, cover letter examples, and things like that. So that QR code on the screen will take you to our Career Center webpage. We also have a career development handbook, which is my favorite resource. Again, that QR code will take you right to that page. And what you'll find is resume examples, cover letter examples, networking, including how to create a LinkedIn profile, information on how to prepare for a career fair, how to prepare for interviews, including some example interview questions. So I highly encourage you to check out that page and see what might be useful to you. So today we're going to focus on resumes, cover letters, personal statements, and we're going to talk a lot about your experience. And experience is really important to employers in addition to your education, right? So you're working on completing your bachelor's degree at UMass. And in addition to that, having experience working within the field is what's going to help you stand out as a candidate. So NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and our Career Center is in association with NACE. They run a lot of data collection and surveys for both college career centers and employers to help share. So they ran a study in 2019. They found when employers have equally qualified candidates, they're often choosing candidates with internship experience over candidates who do not have any. But again, they're qualified equally in other ways on their resume. And in 2019, 56% of interns and 40% of co-op students became full-time entry-level hires. So experience is going to be what really helps you get to the next step of whatever you're looking for. We're going to talk a little bit about where to gain experience if you feel like you're lacking that in any sense, and how to tailor your experience to show why you're a qualified candidate. And jumping into that, we're going to focus on resumes first. So your resume is a document used to present your background, your professional experience, education, full-time, paid positions, part-time, unpaid positions, whatever that looks like for you. So work, volunteer, research, clubs and organizations, classroom experiences and projects, and so much more. When you're thinking about submitting your resume, you want to remember that your overall experience needs to be what the employer shares they're looking for. So it's going to be really tailored depending on what you're applying for. And the way that you really tailor your resume is by making sure that you're reviewing the job description for what you're applying for and highlighting what they indicate they're looking for and where your experience matches that. So this is a resume example. And as you take a look at this, I'm going to point out some aspects that I really want you to notice, right, and what makes this resume stand out. So overall, the formatting, it's easy to read and it's consistent throughout. You'll notice on the right side of the page, all of the dates are lined up, and it's a consistent formatting. So they have underline and all caps for their section headers. They're using bold to draw the eye towards the title of their experience, and then consistent bullet points as well. In this resume, they include a GPA, so 3.6 out of 4.0. If you have above a 3.0, it's encouraged to put your GPA on your resume. If you have a 3.5 or higher, it's even more encouraged to do so. If you're below a 3.0, I would wait until you meet that threshold. It's kind of like a pretty standard indicator on a resume. When employers say that they have a GPA that they require, it's usually at that 3.0 threshold. And keep in mind, having your GPA on your resume is not required at all. So if you don't want to include it, you do not need to. Oops. So this resume also includes relevant coursework. It's a handful of courses that just include the course topic. It's not the course code or the course number. However, it emphasizes what they're learning within their NRC major to highlight more of what their background education is within. So they have ecology, environmental policy, public policy management, et cetera, et cetera. So that can be a good way to pull specific classes that you've taken or are currently taking and making good active progress towards passing to relate it towards, an internship focused on abnormal psychology, for example. Their first section header after education is environmental experience. It's not just work experience or volunteer experience. So when you do a header that says something like environmental experience or relevant experience, you're able to pull up anything that you want to within that. It doesn't have to be separated by paid and unpaid positions. You can be more tailored, right, with what you're highlighting first and foremost. And you're telling the employer right away, right, I have 3 experiences related towards environmental science or NRC. And within that, they have 2 committees and 1 internship. Again, keeping in mind that what's on your resume does not have to only be paid positions. And then they have leadership experience. So they have a resident assistant position and a store associate at Old Navy. So you can absolutely include previous positions or current ones that you hold in regard to retail experience or food service, babysitting and nannying, anything like that. You just want to be strategic with how you are describing that experience. And then this resume is in the bullet point format. So each experience is emphasized and described using bullet points beneath it. We encourage you to use the bullet point format over the paragraph format and to start each bullet point with a very active and descriptive verb. So here you'll see it says plan events, campaign door to door, schedule events, conducted extensive research, participated in conference calls, created an extensive report, et cetera, et cetera. So when you do the bullet point format, you're able to choose what your bullet point starts with. And by picking it as a verb for the starting point, the employer is very quickly identifying your skills and abilities without having to read much further on down the line of that bullet point. So that's why we recommend that you use a bullet point format. So this is another resume example, and it's focused on psychology. The overall format is different, where they use a column on the left as their section headers, but they're still using the bullet points. They still start with education right at the top beneath their name and contact information. So you can use a variety of formatting to write your resume. We encourage you to pick something more basic formatting wise to play with bolding, underline, bullet points, italics with your overall format of the resume. You do not need a template from like Google or Word. Just type your name at the top and use very basic formatting to write your resume. It's easier. You waste more time trying to get the template to do what you want it to do than if you were to just start by yourself and use basic formatting methods. So I mentioned that you want to use action verbs on your resume to start each of your bullet points. And if you're someone who is nervous, right, about thinking of what different verbs you're going to use to describe all of your experiences, we in the Career Development Handbook have about 2.5 pages of just verbs. And they're categorized by different areas, so communication skills, leadership skills, quantitative, qualitative skills, et cetera, et cetera. And when you're starting your bullet point with a verb, you want to help the reviewer picture your experience. So you don't want to just tell them that you have a certain experience, you want to show it. And by doing that, you use very descriptive starting verbs. So helped, assisted, and took care of are two passive of verbs. If you swap those out with collaborated, volunteered, and monitored, you're able to help the reviewer of your resume picture you in the roles that you're describing. And some overall formatting tips. Write your resume in reverse chronological order. So your most recent experience is at the top, and you're going to keep your formatting and headings the same throughout the resume, like we discussed in the previous examples. You're going to check your spelling. I encourage you to bring your resume in to the CNS Career Center for some feedback, but if you're in a time crunch, have just anyone else take a look. You know, your roommate, family, or friends, a professor or faculty member that you trust, and just have another set of eyes take a look. Your resume, cover letter, personal statement, emails to employers are all examples of your written communication skills, and you want to make sure that you are standing out. You're going to check the tense on your verbs. Past positions will be in the past tense, and current positions will be in present tense. So that's the difference of monitored, communicated, assisted, to monitor, communicate, assist. So no ED on the end of any of those. And then you're going to keep your resume to 1 or 2 pages. Most of you will have a nice full 1-page resume, and that is perfectly fine. If you're applying for graduate school, medical school, professional school, you might have a 2-page resume just because they're a little bit more interested in your holistic experience. But either way, you either want to have a full 1-page or full 2-page, no 1.5 pages. And choose a simple font, 10 point at the smallest and 12 point at the largest. We described using bullet points to emphasize our skills and experiences, and using action verbs. The next step to writing your bullet point is adding in any relevant numbers that you're able to throughout. So you can say that you served as a teaching assistant for an intro bio lab and end it there. But when you add of 30 students, it doesn't take that much more room, and it helps the employer, whoever's reading your resume, start picturing you speaking in front of a group of 30 students, providing support to a variety of 30 individuals. In that very small addition, right? So of 30 students, 3 words essentially paints a much better picture of your experience. Same thing with the second example, collaborated with a group of 3 other students to complete experiments and record data. Again, the employer can then picture you working and navigating experiments with a group of 3 other students. So you might be wondering, as you're writing your bullet points, what are the skills that you should be emphasizing on your resume? So this data comes from NACE again, and they asked employers what they're looking for on candidates' resumes. So you'll see with 81%, the top skill that they're looking for is the ability to work in a team. Next is problem-solving skills, analytical and quantitative skills, communication skills verbal, communication skills written, initiative, leadership, technical skills, flexibility and adaptability, strong work ethic, and computer skills. So these are some of the aspects of your experience that you want to make sure that you're highlighting in each of your bullet points. I pulled some information from the US Department of Labor. They have a website called ONET where they have a lot of information for the variety of career paths that people are in. And I looked underneath clinical and counseling psychologists, what skills that they should be able to demonstrate. And it's going to be very similar, you'll notice, to the previous data that we pulled. So reading comprehension, active listening, critical thinking, social perceptiveness, speaking, writing, and monitoring. So again, these are some skills that you should think about if you're interested in going on the clinical and counseling path that should be highlighted in your resume. And then for another career cluster, so social and human services assistants should be able to present these skills: active listening, social perceptiveness, speaking, service orientation. So that one was a little bit different than what we saw in the NACE data. Coordination, reading comprehension, and critical thinking. So I hope as you're seeing some of these skills that you're starting to think of different positions where you've had to do active listening. So for example, Maybe you are a waitress at a local restaurant. You have to be active listening to take the orders of the customers that you're working with. Maybe you are a volunteer at a food bank, right? Social perceptiveness when you're working with others and understanding their needs is a great skill that you can emphasize. So start tying some of these skills to experiences that you have. So a last kind of tip on writing your bullet points. You want to think of your resume and your bullet points as 30% of what you did, that action starting verb, and 70% of the why and the what was the result. So you can say that you demonstrated knowledge of foundational math as a TA and leave it at that. But when you add in the to improve student understanding of course material, you're painting a much better picture and showing the results of what your background in foundational math did for the TA position. In the third bullet point, followed confidentiality regulations. Again, you can leave it at that, but you're adding in more of a description by saying to proctor, collect, and grade assignments in a class of 50. Again, using that number to highlight what your overall experience in that role was. So this is a job description from Handshake. And I wanted to emphasize, right, that when you're writing your resume or your cover letter or your personal statement, you want to go back and look at the job description or the program description to identify what the employer is indicating that they're looking for. So this is a psychiatry research internship, and they have, a much longer job description at the top, kind of emphasizing, what the internship is focused on, what the student will do in this role. And then they include this description of responsibilities may include, so this is what someone in the role is going to be doing, and qualifications of a strong candidate. So this is a really good starting point to find what in your resume you can edit and highlight to show that you meet the needs that they're looking for. Data entry and database management. I'm sure as psychology majors working within some of the different lab classes that you've had to do, you've done data entry. Literature reviews. Again, if you're a part of any research group, you might be doing literature reviews. Assisting investigators, presentation and manuscript preparations. When have you done presentation skills in the past? And then they also include desire and willingness to learn, interest in research, medicine, psychiatry, clinical psych, neuroscience, bio, or psychology, comfortable interacting directly with study participants, previous research experience in human subjects, proficient computer skills, willingness to learn. These are really helpful tips on where you can edit your bullet points to show that you meet some of those qualifications. And this is another example of a job description. So behavior analysis internship at Berkshire Family and Individual Resources. And they have in the middle section of that job description, the responsibilities. So again, this is what someone in this role is going to do. So assist with behavior data entry, assist with writing and updating behavior, modifying medication treatment plans, completing progress summaries, etc. So always go back and identify where you have relatable experiences. As we're talking about the resume, you might be thinking, I don't have any experience. I don't have, internships in the past, or, I go back and I work a summer job that I've been in since I was in high school. So I want you to expand again what you think about as relevant experience. You're going to include your education on your resume. So your major, minor, if you're in the honors college, your GPA, your relevant courses, and that's going to take a decent chunk of the resume. From there, I want you to think about any previous jobs that you've had, volunteer experiences, research, labs, including classes, student organizations, leadership positions, academic projects, if you're a resident assistant, a peer mentor, a peer advisor, any certificates or coursework that you've gained, including outside of the university with LinkedIn Learning or Coursera, languages, computer programs, and so much more. If you want to include an academic project on your resume or a lab class, this is how you might format that. So the first one is cancer rates in the United States. So the title of the project, it was a group project in regression and analysis for fall 2022. And then a couple bullet points of what you did. Collaborated with 3 other students, utilized response variable of age, etc. The second one shows lab student in cellular and molecular biology, spring 2022, analyzed mutations in tumor suppressor gene P53, generated and analyzed data, completed lab techniques. If you're someone who's interested in doing research, I highly encourage you to include lab classes on your resume. If you don't have any other research experience thus far, it shows the employer that you have that background being in a lab and that you have experience utilizing different lab equipment, working on a team, running experiments, writing lab reports, and it's going to help you get your foot in the door. And I want you to use Handshake to look for positions. So Handshake has thousands of jobs and internships available. And if you need help navigating Handshake, I would highly encourage you to come into our office and meet with either our peer advisors or our full-time advisors to start identifying different experiences that you want to apply for. So we are going to focus on cover letters now. And just a quick overview of what a cover letter is. Your cover letter is that written document that expresses your interest and overall qualifications for a position. Cover letters are commonly required for internship and job applications. And you again want to make sure that you're matching your skills with those listed in the job description and emphasizing them in the cover letter. You're going to expand on some of your experiences and main points from your resume. And essentially, you're going to sell yourself, right? Why are you the best candidate for the position? What direct experience do you have? What can you relate from your past experiences to this position that you're applying for? So this is the job summary of an example of a cover letter we're going to look at. And again, you're going to keep going back to those job descriptions to review and identify what the employer says they're looking for. And in this example, we've bolded some different skills, right, that they indicate they're looking for someone in this role. So someone who's team-oriented, fast-paced, someone who can participate in a day of caring community service project, implement an end of summer recognition and reflection ceremony. And then they get into department-specific responsibilities, right? So database and spreadsheet applications, interpret and summarize data, identify positive and negative trends, develop strategies to address or capitalize on these trends. And then they get into preferred qualifications. In the qualifications section, keep in mind that anything that is preferred is not required. So if you don't meet all of the preferred qualifications, but you meet all of the minimum qualifications, then you should apply for the position. If you meet at least 60% of the qualifications, then you should be applying for it. You do not have to meet every single qualification on the job description to be eligible and to be a good candidate. If you have some good past experience and you can relate your previous knowledge well to the job environment and you can interview well, then you'll likely move forward in the process. So this is what a cover letter looks like. And you'll notice at the top is some information that is your information as the person writing the letter. So 123 North Pleasant Street, that would be my address essentially. This is separated from the company's information by the date you're writing the letter, and then you do the company's information. If you have a contact name, you're welcome to include it. So if in the job description it says, please write your cover letter and address it to Miss Joan Crosby, then that's what you'll do in the cover letter. It's more common now that you don't have any contact associated with the job position. So if that's the case, you'll just leave that first line off and then start with the company's name and whatever street address you can find for them. And then you address the letter, right? Again, if you're given a contact name, you'll include that. And if you don't, you can say, "Dear hiring manager." That's still professional. If you are provided a name that says, address your materials to Joan Crosby, and you're not provided that article of Miss, Mr., Mrs., I wouldn't make any assumptions and just choose an article for what you believe someone named Joan Crosby identifies as and uses. It's still professional to use their full first name and last name, and then you don't have to make any assumptions based on gender or marital status. So in the cover letter, you start with your introduction, right? So after you write your "Dear Miss Crosby" or "Dear hiring manager," you indicate what specific job you're applying for. So in this, it says, "I'm applying for the product/pricing analytics intern." You will share where you found the job posting, and then jump into who are you. So in this example, currently a junior at UMass, pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Math. When I write a cover letter, I like to think of like the most basic form of writing a essay. So in that first introductory paragraph, you were probably taught to include, exactly what you're going to be talking about in the rest of that essay. And that's why I want you to think about a cover letter. In that first paragraph, what are the 2 to 3 things that the employer needs to know about you that makes you a qualified candidate for this specific role? So they share, "In my experience with solving analytical problems in the classroom has ignited a desire to apply my skill to real world scenarios. I'm passionate about this opportunity, providing people with a sense of security in their business and personal lives. I'm a quick study, detail oriented, and an excellent team member." So you'll find out more about this candidate further down in the rest of the cover letter. But if the employer just reads the first paragraph, they're getting that skill set that you want to emphasize later on very quickly and right up front. So in your second and third paragraphs, you're going to go into detail about your skills and experiences that make you qualified for the role. And if you want to reference anything from your resume, and you should be, you want to tie it back to a particular position. So on this, they go into detail about participating in the 5 College Data Fest, where they worked with Ticketmaster to analyze their data. So I, as an employer, would then be going back to the resume and looking for 5 College Data Fest, right? And identifying where that falls on the resume and learning a little bit more with their bullet points in that experience. So you don't want to just say, "In my previous internship experience." You want to identify and remind the employer of where that internship experience was and what you gained from it. They also include in the third paragraph a focus on their teamwork, communication, and working in fast-paced environments through their position as a new students orientation leader. So again, it's that specific title. It's not just my experience on campus at UMass, right? It's tying it back to something specific. And emphasizing, again, skills that they saw from the job description. And in this cover letter example, I would probably break up that third paragraph into 2 and have a discussion of the orientation leader position and then separate the conclusion into its own paragraph. And that's where you re-summarize your skills and you remind them of how to get in touch with you to discuss the position further. I think this is a great example of a starting cover letter. Some things to keep in mind formatting wise. You are going to keep everything left justified. There's no paragraph indentations. Your paragraphs are separated by line breaks between. And then you do write sincerely at the bottom because it is a letter, and you can just type your name at the bottom. You don't have to introduce any sort of like handwritten signature. So this is just a closer look at the cover letter, right? So we discussed the top is that business letter format with the contact information and then your introductory paragraph. And then zooming in again a little bit closer, your middle paragraphs are describing again your skills and experiences that directly relate towards the position. And your fourth paragraph is tying everything together. Sorry. So in writing a cover letter, this is a really good way to just kind of organize your thinking. So you can make a very simple T-chart where the left-hand column is what they want, and that's where you're actively reading the job description and you are identifying anything that stands out to you. So it might be, leadership experience, your written communication skills, and teamwork. And then you're going to think about your experience. I would recommend looking at your resume as a starting point to identify where your qualifications match what they're looking for. And this can be a good way to help you structure your cover letter and help you identify what you want to make sure that you're emphasizing, right, in your descriptions. So, personal statements. Personal statements are often required for graduate school applications or some summer programs that are a little bit more extensive or provide scholarships and things like that. You want to pay attention to any word, character, or page limits. It'll vary by each program that you're applying for. And each program might be asking for specific questions that they want you to answer in your personal statement. And if that's the case, you really want to make sure that you're hitting any of those overall questions that they want to know about you. It might vary from tell me why you're interested in this program and what you can gain from it. What experience do you have that makes you qualified? What are your overall career goals and how can this program help you get to that? Or it might even be more specific. So you want to make sure that you're reviewing the application materials. Excuse me. Just like with your cover letter and resume, you want to make sure you're paying attention to any typos or grammatical errors. So getting a second opinion on your personal statement is highly recommended. And in the personal statement, you really want to have an opening line that grabs the reader's attention and is really engaging. So personal statements are a little bit longer in length, and they are, I would say, like a little bit more flowery than a cover letter. Cover letters are a little bit more direct. Tell me why your skills and experiences make you qualified for this role. And personal statements are a little bit more, tell me about you. Why are you interested in participating in this program? What's your story and your connection to this field or this industry? And you share a little bit more than you would in a cover letter, right? It's called a personal statement because they want to get to know you personally as a candidate. Excuse me. So your personal statement should answer these three questions. Who are you? What events in your life helped to shape your identity? Why do you want to participate in this program? And how have you affirmed that decision? So if you're someone who's, applying to medical school, you might share why you originally became interested in medical school. And what have you done experience-wise that has affirmed that decision? So where did your original interest stem from? And as an adult, a college level student, what experiences have confirmed that initial interest? Is it being a CNA or an EMT or being a volunteer at a hospital? Tell them more about that. And then who do you aspire to be as a professional in your field? What impact do you want to have? What career goals are you hoping to achieve and why? Again, if you receive from the program a list of questions that they want you to answer in your personal statement, you want to be focusing on those. These are kind of just, if you are not given any sort of prompts and they say just include a personal statement, these are good questions to come back to. So some tips. You do not want to just restate what's on your resume when you're writing a personal statement. They will have that in addition to your application. So you really want to be expanding on any points from your resume and telling a story, right? What was it like to work in a research lab focused on human research subjects, right? What did you gain? What did you feel? What was the environment like? You want to tell the reader what you learned about yourself by participating in various experiences from your resume. So as a CNA, what did you learn, about yourself through this process? What connections did you make with the patients you were working with? What story do you have to tell? You want to include, those anecdotes, those stories that give that holistic picture of who you are as a candidate. And you want to help them feel what you were feeling in particular experiences that are like bookmarked in your memory. You want to be authentic and honest. You don't want to write a personal statement that isn't true to you or your experience. And you want to stay away from very general statements. So things like a doctor should always be patient and kind, or everyone wanted to be a doctor when I was growing up. Those are very large general statements, and they're not really telling the employer or the review committee anything about you. You're the person applying for the program or the position, so they want to know about you and your experience, not how you perceive the entire world and what everyone else is wanting. So we do have a personal statement writing resource. Again, that QR code on the screen will take you to that. And we have examples of personal statements. They're focused more so on the pre-health and pre-med line of applications. However, I think just reading those backgrounds of personal statements and just giving an example, you'll just have to tailor it towards whatever type of school or program you're applying to. We have, these reminders on questions to think about when you're writing your personal statement. And as I've mentioned in the past, our Career Center is available, right, for a variety of your needs. So if you have a personal statement you want reviewed, we're happy to do that here in the Career Center. I would recommend you do a one-on-one career advising appointment for personal statement writing rather than meeting with our peer advisors, just because we're a little bit more experienced in that than your fellow peer. And then a reminder of how to get in touch with us. So we have drop-in peer advising available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you schedule a career advising appointment via Handshake. And I'm going to give a quick demonstration of Handshake very quickly. So let's see. Okay. So when you log into your Handshake account, this is what it will look like. And on the left-hand column is the navigation toolbar. So this is where you'll find, jobs, events, employers, your inbox, and Career Center. So when you're wanting to make a one-on-one career advising appointment, you select this Career Center tab and you schedule appointments here. You're able to schedule remote or in person. So if you are someone who has a preference for either, you're able to identify that and select the most recent time slot available. And we also have those in-person appointments as well. Very quickly, jobs is where you're going to find jobs and internships and co-ops. So you'll see here that we have 27,900 jobs currently available. So I encourage you to use this all filters section to help narrow down exactly what you're looking for. So if you're looking for internships, paid positions that are remote, we're already filtering things down. From those 27,000 jobs, we're now at 766. You can do the job role, which you have to type in a keyword, or the industry, which is a drop-down menu, and I think it's a little bit easier to use. So let's do, I think nonprofit would be good for psych majors, government, local, state, and federal, healthcare, so a variety of fields, right? Social assistance. Okay, so research, and show results. So 195 positions, right? And you can add in the location as well. If it feels too narrow, you can always take off some of the filters. If it feels too broad, you can introduce more filters. So I really like Handshake as a tool. And you can also see any upcoming events. So we do have psychology career fairs, both semesters, fall and spring. And you can see what employers are planning on attending any of the career fairs. This is one of the examples by selecting See More Employers. And that's where you'll find out more about what work they do, if they have any current jobs available, what their location is, and what their goals are as a program. So I would encourage you to play with this as well. Great. So some key takeaways, right? When you are applying to either internships, full-time jobs, graduate school, professional school, medical school, you really want to make sure that the documents you are presenting to whoever's going to be reviewing your application are tailored towards what they're indicating. Cover description, job description, or finding out more about it. That's how you stand out when you are telling the employer you have direct experience with a variety of skill sets that you can. I hope you also are taking away that our Career Center is available and open for support with resume writing, cover letter writing, where to find jobs, internships, co-ops, personal statement review, and interviewing if you're at that stage. We really want to make sure that you feel supported as you are working towards your overall career goals. I have enjoyed chatting with you all virtually today. Again, my name is Mary Lynn Silverstein. I work in CNS Career Center, and you can make appointments with me via your Handshake account if you're interested in chatting. But thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I hope you take care. Bye.